Hi, Peter Charles here, Hooked Fly Fishing. And today we're going to tie the Skagit Special. I'm going to stay with some Marabou flies for a while and do a few of those. So I just did the Umpqua Pearly-Boo and now the Skagit Special. These are interesting flies. They push a lot of water. And this fly has a concept that I also use in my Dirty Harry of putting a bulge of material behind the Marabou to make it fluff up and stand up and give it some bulk when it comes through the water. So let's get into tying this fly. Oh, I should mention it's considered a winter fly. So we're going to be using a heavy hook to get this fly down because Marabou doesn't want to sink very well. So you really have to pull it down. And a heavy hook helps. So the hook I'm using is a Deepwater Salmon single in a size 1/0. You could use a 2/0 or even bigger if you wanted to. My thread is red in a UTC 140. My body is a Uni-Mylar, and I'm using a large size. That shoulder is going to be orange dubbing. The pattern calls for seal or substitute, and this is like an SLF type, which is similar to seal. My first hackle is yellow Marabou, and the second hackle is orange Marabou. And if you're using fluorescent colors, that's not a bad idea. Shedding here. So one thing about using Marabou, it goes all over the place. Okay, and finally, my hackle is teal. You could also use Guinea if you wanted to, or a heavily barred mallard flank. They would all work. It's basically to have a feather in the front that has some kind of mottling or barring to create that kind of effect. So let's get started. Now I'm going to go part the way down, and I'm going to tie in my mylar. Again, as usual, I'm using the silver side, so I'm tying gold side up. Now I'll continue going down, and you'll see why I've started at this point in a minute. I'm not getting super fussy about how neatly I wrap here, because this silver tinsel body is really going to get buried behind the Marabou. So being super fussy with it is, not going to get you a whole lot. Okay, we start winding this on. Start with the turn at the back and pull nice and tight so the mylar digs in. I'll stop right there where we started the mylar, because we have to put our shoulder in, and I don't really want to put that over the mylar. I want to put it over the thread. Let's clean that up. Now, UTC thread is rather slippery, so I'm going to go with a bit of dubbing wax to help it, because it's slippery dubbing on slippery thread, so it might not hurt to have a little bit of wax. Again, this is not really going to show. It's going to be buried behind the Marabou, so you don't really have to get super pretty with it. The whole point of this is to bulk up, so we're just going to create bulk here. And if you get a little bit lumpy with the dubbing, nobody's going to notice. The other thing you can do too, by the way, is put some dubbing wax on your fingers. That helps. Or a bit more. You can see we're building up quite a ball here, which is exactly what we want. As I say, I've done this in my Dirty Harry fly as well, creating this big ball of dubbing behind the Marabou to help it to flare out the Marabou. And I think just a little bit more. There we go. Now we tie on our Marabou, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip a little bit off the base to give me a tying in point, because I'm going to be tying the fly in by the tip and then tying it off by the base of the quill. Okay, we grab it by the tip, stroke it back, wind on, fold over. You can leave the tip in place, you can cut it out if you want, you can leave it in place if you want, it doesn't matter. Now, the tip sections of Marabou are very fragile, so I just wind on a few turns without trying to do anything with the Marabou in terms of stroking it back. I just get it started, so I get into a thicker part of the quill, and now I can work with it without worrying about it breaking. But if you start yanking and banking on that quill, that thin tip section, it'll just break it off. So I do all of the work with the thicker sections of the quill. Now you can see where that bare base is now available for me to tie in. That's fairly thick. I'm not going to try and break that. Cut it off. Okay, now we'll do the same thing with the orange. Now one of the things you can do is put a little less orange on the front so it shows the fluorescent yellow up a little bit more. That's just a style choice. Fold the tip back. As before, put a few gentle wraps in so you can get onto the thicker part of the quill before you begin to start working it. Make sure that yellow doesn't get tangled up in it. Brush everything back. If you find you're getting barbs trapped, just come in with your bodkin and pick them out. Okay, now for our teal. Well, you can see I'm not using a lot of material here. I'm keeping that amount of barbs I'm putting on to a small amount. I don't want that to be overwhelming and having something that looks more teal than anything else. My tying in point, wrap it firmly. Now when you're doing this, make sure you're keeping the Marabou behind the teal. Keep brushing everything back. Fold that teal quill back. See if I can break it. No, I don't think it's going to break off. Okay, now we just finish up the head. Put some soft wraps right at the very back. And we whip finish. And finally some head cement. Okay, there we have our Skagit special. Very interesting Marabou fly. I think it will do quite well, push a lot of water, be very bright, especially in green stained conditions. It should look great. Remember to use some fluorescent material if you have it. And just keep that teal not too in your face, keep it minimal. And I think this fly should work just great. So give it a try. Cheers.